last letter home. This is a copy of his last letter. State of Virginia, July 27, 1861. He died exactly 1 month to the day after this letter was written. Dear wife and children, I am still upon the land of the living, and thought that I would not write to you until I could interest you. Though from the feelings of the times we will be in a battle in 48 hours. We leave at 5 o'clock for Lynchburg. So I thought I had better write, as life is uncertain. I am a long way from home, though I'm amongst my friends. There has been a fight here, the greatest one on record. That fight that he's talking about was First Manassas. He didn't know the name of it at that time, but that's what we call First Manassas. I hardly know how to express myself, though I think hard fighting will be done in a few days, as the attempt will be made to take Washington City. Some think we will fall back to Tennessee. I know that we are only a reserve in the next fight. Beauregard said if he had only 6 hours longer, he could have taken the city. The loss of the northern people was 21,000 killed and about 10,000 wounded, beside about 10,000 stand of arms. Times are awful here. We will be within sight of the enemy within 48 hours. Our officers act with great caution. We were 5 days and nights on the railway to this point, and we camped for one night. Our tents are rolled up and waiting for the cars. I will write every chance I have. Tell Willie and Vonda that Pa wants to see his little children. I will write after the battle if I am not killed, and I'm not afraid of them. I sent $15 by Brady Denton. You need not write unless you can send it by some of the boys, for I do not know where to tell you to write. Tell Mr. Putty I will write to him the first chance. Nothing more, but remain your affectionate husband until death, P.J. Raleigh. The Mr. Putty he mentions is his father-in-law in this. I wish I had a color picture of his flag, but there's a picture of the 8th Regiment flag. P.J.'s wife, Selina Putty, her cousin William owned this old house. This old house is on Murray Street, and I'm sure most of you know where it is. Her cousin William owned that house. He hung himself in the barn out in the back in the 1880s, and he is buried in the city cemetery also. Pleasant Jefferson Raleigh, one of the Gainsborough Invincibles. My next brother, David Albert Raleigh, is the one who was an amputee and never left Gainsborough. He has many children that are relatives that are still around here. Lieutenant James William Raleigh. James Raleigh, this is James. This is James Raleigh. He's buried at Mount Olivet Cemetery. Now, a few years ago, some of us went, I'm going to jump in and out of character, I'm sorry people. A few years ago, some of us went to Mount Olivet for a memorial service for a man named Captain Cox, who had been a cavalry soldier. Mike was there, Betty and I went, who had been a cavalry soldier. He had been in the same regiment with him. He was first lieutenant when he lost the election because the lower grades were voted in. Lost the election, he quit the infantry. He was 20th Tennessee Infantry. He was with Thomas Benton Smith and all the people that so many of us know and that are heroes. He was with the 20th Tennessee when Captain Cox quit because he lost the election, joined the cavalry and went off with John Hunt Morgan, ended up incarcerated, died in a Yankee prison. But James was the one who won that election from him. They both received their gravestones the same month. They had both been lost to their families for 150 years. It was just incredible that they were found at the same time. But James he was in so many battles. I have lists, so many battles. All three of the boys were at Stones River. He was at Shiloh. He was shot through the hip at the Battle of Resaca, Georgia. And now in the Battle of Resaca, he was with a man named John Savage. Now they didn't much care for each other. When Yankee bullets are coming at you, your list of friends can change real quickly. but a book about the 20th Tennessee tells about his wounding, that he was shot, that John Savage's head was against James's hip. A ball came through, it ripped Savage's head right off his shoulders. They found his hat in a tree. It said it took about 5 pounds of James's hip with it. That hip wound never, ever healed. He didn't die until 1900. He applied for a pension in February. It said that his wound was comparable to the loss of a limb because it had never healed. He applied for a pension in February and was dead in March. So he lived longer. There's one other brother who lived longer, but I haven't found him yet. But he's always been my hero, and one of the reasons that I go to Resaca every year, and I always flag Savage's grave. He's buried at Mount Olivet in Nashville. The next brother is Silas Raleigh. Now Silas, he was kind of the rebellious wild one of the family, I'm afraid. He joined the Alabama Cavalry when the cavalry came through Middle Tennessee. He joined the Alabama Cavalry. He was captured